planning on changing the world just like me. You could be the chairwoman and I'll be the trustee. Let me give all to your benefit. Then I'll get blessed out my deficit.
Welcome back to Your Corporate IQ. I am your host, Tandiel Johnson.
And I'm your co-host, Lishez Solage.
Lishez, you know what time it is, girl.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so super excited about our guest today. But for all you listeners out there, in the words of Q-Tip, high, low, or even open toe, put your heels on, baby. You know you can't start corporate without some heels and some pearls. You got your pearls on, girl. All right.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
look it. All right, good. Well, before we start, our standard disclaimer is the views expressed from your corporate IQ are our own and do not reflect the views of any company or organization. So with that said, thank you for joining us here at your corporate IQ, where we will discuss the perils and the pearls of corporate America with the lens from the people of color. Today's segment is prioritizing self-care. Ooh, Lishez, I can't wait.
Yes.
I
Yes. We
can't
need it.
wait.
We
We
need it.
need it so bad. And oh my God, the person that we have today is Miss Kysha Cameron. Let me just say, when this young lady walks in the room, she changes the entire atmosphere. Nobody better to talk about self-care than Miss Kysha Cameron. And before we bring her on, I just would like to highlight that Kysha is a former board member and CEO emeritus to an Atlanta-based youth foundation. And most recently, she has aligned herself both professionally as well as personally in a racial equity firm where she led both operations and business development. But for over a decade, Kysha has led many great successes, and one would be in media sales. She's launched her own business. We'd like to give a shout out to Honor and Hue, which is a greeting card company that she started with her children. But ultimately, Kysha likes to stay connected to service and community. It is one of her greatest loves and passions. And with that, I'd like to introduce Miss Kysha Cameron.
You.
Yay.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited you are here.
Yes.
Oh, super
Part of my
excited.
self-care today.
Say again.
This is part of my self-care today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Welcome, 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 Kysha.
Thank you, Lishez.
Aw. So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
So prioritizing self-care with that wonderful, wonderful intro. You're certainly busy, business ventures, you have your family. How do you prioritize self-care?
That's a good place to start. But it was quite a journey to even get to a point where I was processing self-care, where I
Mm,
was able to make sure that it existed for me.
mm,
To break some generational curses. It was not modeled for me.
mm.
Um, and so
Say
most,
more. Say more about that.
well, I guess, and so I say that because it is quite a journey, right? Like I just didn't start, and it wasn't. I haven't done it my whole life, and but the reality is there were times when I don't know. I just grew up, and there wasn't a space to sit and rest. It was considered an idle mind, and your body, you were always on the go. You were always doing, and everyone was,
Mhm.
my siblings, my parents. It just wasn't. Not only was it not taught, it wasn't modeled, and it wasn't honored.
Sure.
Okay.
And I absolutely love and adore my family and my upbringing. So it was a long journey for me. I got to a point after having two children where I think at one point I was going through family photos and I just thought like, why does everybody look great and I look tired? And I am tired. Like in every photo I found a consistent story about like, oh, Keisha, like, it's but I thought the way to love and to be present was to care for everybody and everything else. And
Mm,
Sure.
mhm.
I soon learned that is not how God intended us to live and to be able to show up. Um,
Mm-mm.
and then I began to really realize that the things I needed to chip away at and release so that I could receive. And
Okay.
soon, very, very vast, beautiful experiences that just like one after another, I got introduced to different modalities and different things you can do and different practices. And I think one of the most beautiful things about my life, and I think for many, is that people will show up just in time to give you what you need. And I use that term loosely, like what you need, because oftentimes we think we know what we need. We definitely
Mm,
know what we desire, but there's a journey in between, right? And
Mm-mm.
there was a beautiful time where I was just tired and
mm.
I was grateful and I thought I was happy and I wasn't. you know,
He said, and I wasn't.
I just started, and it wasn't like some miserable situation. It was just like, I want the happiness for me and the joy that I want for the people I love, that I
Yeah.
want for my children, that I wanted for my then husband. So I just very firmly stepped into that. And
Okay.
really, really just one beautiful community led to another, which led to another experience and another opportunity to be exposed and engaged with places and experiences and people. Um, I will say, a lot of it, oftentimes my practices, a lot of them honestly started off with girl trips. I have a
Mm.
dear friend who travels the world, and I wish I could always be in her in a suitcase, but I'm not. We really would just do girl trips, and we probably do them at least 3 times a year. And
Wow, that's
oftentimes
nice.
they were to spas, and I remember my most profound experience probably occurring in 2013. Um, yes, at a spa in Arizona. And that I can truly say that was my awakening. Um, I had a beautiful session with Wyatt Webb, who is named the Horse Whisperer. And I don't
Ooh.
know if you all know, but there's so much to be learned about horse therapy, and it serves us in such a beautiful way. And so the beautiful, majestic horse will actually mirror back the energy that you're giving. Um,
Oh.
and he's watching it, and I take nothing from all of the. He looked like a cowboy, a straight cowboy. Had he not had on like a gold Rolex, like, but he was a straight cowboy, and not to take anything from what he has studied formally, but that session was so amazing for him to observe my approach, my attempts, and it probably took me 5 times to get the horse to do what I was instructed and how I was supposed to guide the horse. And before we got there, at attempt number 3, he asked, he says, now step back. And he says, how long have you been taking care of everybody else? And
Ooh.
man, that was it. Because he hit it hard. So I started with some basic things. Going long story back to your question, I started with some basic things, right? I
Mhm.
started with gratitude. And I expanded my gratitude every morning from being in the bed and saying a prayer, but not just stating what I was grateful for, but then learning how to step into the feeling of now feel it like as if you are experiencing it now, that you have it now, that you're basking in it now, that you feel it right this very moment. Um, I started with prayer in my bed. I start with rituals. I look in the mirror every day and hug myself and say, Keisha, I love and accept you just the way you are. And
Oh,
I say it 3 times. I practices that anchor me that will not. I gotta step outside. You know, I've got this melanin loves the sun, and the sun does me justice. So I've got to be outside. I love outside. I connect to water. I connect to my
Mm.
favorite park. I
mhm.
will try to and these are things that I am doing. If you would, what, and I feel like my practices are twofold. I feel like there's external practices and internal. So the things that
Mm.
I'm sharing right now are things that I consider to be from the root to the fruit, right? Like
Yeah.
start on the inside, you know. And so I mean,
Keisha,
yes,
I have a question for you.
yes,
A lot of our listeners are corporate America,
yes,
either in corporate or they're trying to get in corporate or get out. Nonetheless, no matter where their journey is, they need the self care. And
yes.
so, if you were to give, you know, just a tip to those that are knee deep, trying to climb the corporate ladder, and you know what that's like, right? And being top in sales or top department, and it's a rat race. But lots of people are trying to do that. What advice would you give them? One tip.
That you've got to take care of you. Nothing else matters. It is absolutely from the inside out. You cannot go in and show up and be your best and pour from an empty vessel. You cannot. And these things can be so little. It can be listening to my favorite affirmations on YouTube in the morning. I hula hoop every morning. I just like to get it going, right?
Wow, wow, wow.
I mean, the fun and the joy that's
Yeah,
inside of us that we literally have to choose to
yeah.
turn on and to activate. I give my kids the example of, having electricity in the home, but if you don't go to the light switch and switch it up, it's just sitting there.
Mm-mm.
This is something beautiful that is inside of us, but oftentimes, especially in our pursuit of corporate and in our pursuit of various things as we matriculate through life, we become disconnected to them, right? And
Yeah,
I think for those who are able to come back to a place of even acknowledging that we want more, or we want to feel more, or we want to move differently. And then you start to make these little investments into these beautiful little practices that all matter. And you get to see animals now coming up to you, like
I think
freaking
what's interesting, yeah, I think
yeah,
what's interesting about what you're saying and the tie into corporate is that I like that you said it's internal and external, right? And I wait for your journey because it's a full journey that you take us through. So you're saying that it's internal, it's external. You have things that I think that our listeners would have anticipate that you would have said,
Mhm,
right? So going to the spa, like going on vacations, those are the things that I'm quite sure the listeners would have thought you would have said.
mhm,
But as you continued in your journey, you mentioned other things. And I think it's really the other things that I think are so important for us because um, those things are free, right? Those things don't require tons of resources from you to do, right? And it's things that you have to prioritize every single day.
yes,
There is
yes,
sunlight, and you put that sun in your face. Whatever it is that you need that brings you that joy that you're talking about, those things are absolutely free, but it's absolutely imperative that you
Yeah.
take the time to enjoy these little things because everything else could be a bear.
Yeah.
You're busy at work. It's about your goals. I mean, we're talking about that on your corporate IQ, right? It's about
Yes.
navigation and understanding your career and where do you want to go and what steps do you need to take. But there's these other things that are right
Mhm.
there adjacent to you as you do that work every day. Like you left out of your house, like you said, why don't you enjoy your audiobook on your way to what? To work, right?
Yes.
Why don't you enjoy that sun on your face when you stepped outside instead of just like rushing to think about the next task or the next meeting that you have, right?
And to
Like I
be
think that's the
present,
important things. Yeah.
in all that you're experiencing every day. You
Yes.
know, yeah, I mean, the reality is I love a bath now. It doesn't have to be at night. It doesn't have to be hot. It doesn't have to be like, just to sit and give thanks and just say, wow, thank you, feet. Thank you, ankles. Like to put on lotion like it's a ceremony, like, okay, now, you're looking good today. You're feeling good. These are the things I think is so important to lift up to me and separate the external and the internal, which is just my perspective. Because and yes, I work out, with a trainer twice a week, but I also walk a 6 miles a day, 4 times a week on my own. I think we oftentimes get so caught up in what's available to us on the exterior, right? And miss how to create moments that make a difference and that activate our joy and our gratitude by just simple acknowledgement. So, to your point, yes, these are things you would have suspected, right? But how are you really sitting with them, right? Like everybody looks in the mirror every day. Are you telling yourself you love yourself, that you accept yourself just the way you are, that you're doing your absolute best, and that's all that's expected? Like so for me, it's not so much that
It,
it's the easy things,
it
it's
makes me feel.
connecting with it,
Mhm.
really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
present with it. The external things, to me, the reality is there are services, right? There are therapists, there are counselors, there are life coaches, there are communities. So you've got I have very beautiful friends that I have grown with over my years, who really highlight more of the external than the internal. And to me, very much like I believe that we are spiritual beings, emotional, mental, and physical. I don't, and all of those things need to be activated in some capacity. I feel the same about the internal versus the external. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yes.
I think
I,
it's powerful. I think I want to go back to what you said about modeling because I think that, and I'll speak for myself here. We'll return back to what you said. Um, these things weren't modeled to me either, right? And I don't think that, and again, this is just me speaking from my lens. I don't think the elders were good at this. Okay. I don't think they were good at modeling self-care and understanding that that is needed. I think that martyr, we saw that more often in the elders than we saw a modeling of self-care. I think as the generations have gotten younger, we've understood the concept of self-care more, right? And having something that's carved out for yourself, separate from your husband, separate from your family. I think that the younger generations, as you get past the boomer, understands this a little bit better. And each generation, I feel, from my lens, seems to understand it better and better and better. You need to set aside some things that you do for yourself that's just for you. And so I love that you said that from a modeling standpoint. Full transparency, you didn't always know to do that. It's something you had to grow and learn later, that the importance of those things. And
Yeah.
myself didn't have that. I think my husband does a good job of helping me, kind of
yeah,
anchoring me in these things where he's like, you know what, it was really nice to just walk the kids to school today. This is
Mhm.
the kind of stuff that he'll mention to me. Like, you know what, it was so
Yes.
nice to be able to, I had the privilege to be able to walk them to school today, right? In a
Mhm.
lovely neighborhood. Like just enjoy what you have. Most people just like, oh my God, the traffic, the these other things. Just enjoy the simplicity of life, the what you have right in front of you, enjoying that every single day. But again, it takes him to share that with me because again it wasn't modeled to me, so it's harder for me to understand those things and to appreciate the little small things. I've had to learn that as I've gotten older. It's not something that I knew as a young person, so I love that you said that. And then also from a modeling standpoint, how much of that modeling do you think your kids are gleaning from you? Do you think they understand this, um, and do you think they're applying it? Do you think they understand the modeling that you are exuding?
So I am so freaking proud of myself and my growth. And my kids are young adults now. They're both in college. And I will tell you that they are two very different individuals. I oftentimes will tell them because some of the things I did just, and I mean, the meals I wanted to prepare for them, and they had two home cooked meals every day, and and I had to look at them and say, I thought that's what breakfast should be, but it should not be that, right? Like I know that's what you do your whole life, but this is what breakfast is really about. Um, my there is resistance, right?
Sure.
And
Okay.
then but there's always beautiful learning opportunities because what I know to be true is that I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for
Right.
their children's children. I mean, the reality is I'm showing my parents, something that now I'm not saying they agree, you know, and I mean, not that they're not agreeing, but you know what I mean? Like I'll talk to
Absolutely.
my mom and she's having, has had knee and hip replacement surgery. And I say, well, did you walk? And she's like, I haven't walked. I don't have time. And you don't have time to just to the end of the street. Just, you have to, mom. The doctors told you, you've had procedures. And just having that area of compassion. My daughter does not want to exercise with me. She wants to do different things, but she hasn't been consistent. She's not committed, right? But
Sure.
she knows and she's watching and we have conversations and we share different dietary things. You know, what I like for her to prioritize it in a way that I didn't, sure. At her
Yeah.
age, sure. But I didn't even do it at
That's
her
right.
age. And so it comes with just so much grace. And everybody does something different. And to your point, Lachez, I mean, there is nothing like opening up a window as soon as you wake up or a door. It
Mhm.
sounds different. It smells different. It feels different than the rest of the day. So, and in so many ways, yes, they are on it. They know how to eat. They know how to put a meal together, the pairing, the portions. They're both in college. I don't think they're like, majorly committed, but they've taken a lot. They've taken a lot. And again, I'm doing it for me, but I'm doing it for them too. Um,
Sure.
I have even noticed, and again, even for my parents, I have even noticed, as we talk about my young adult children, that my self care has played a role in my parenting. When there are times when there's been some hard conversations and some hard exchanges, and I can step away and say I'm step away, and I can go take a bath, or I can go hula hoop, or I can take a walk, and so I'm modeling to them how to process things in a healthy way, I like to think. But I
Sure.
also feel like it is something, I don't use the word magical often, but magical about it. And that when you take care of yourself, these other things just
Mm.
seem to find a way to be.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's almost like it's ordained to be that way. You know?
Yeah.
There's not, let me walk. Let me sit and journal. Yes.
I think there's a level of what I think is really important to socialize here is a level of acceptance of this that you have to have. What I mean by that is Lachez doesn't feel bad about prioritizing self-care, right? So there has to
Mhm.
be acceptance of this and then support of that with your family, right? Those two
Mhm.
things have to live together to make it all possible. I have to accept that hey, maybe I'm not going to be able to do this perfectly and all of that for everyone else, but there's time is time, and there's only so much time to do things. And in that time that you have in a day, or a year, or whatever, there has to be time for that self care. And I'm
Yes.
okay with that, and I accept that. And you need to accept that also. Like that's also a part of the deal is acceptance and support.
And then
Let me jump in here
oh, go ahead.
because this reminds me of a couple of people that I have encouraged self care to in the past. Once I figured out that I needed self care, and what ended up happening, interesting enough, Lachez, is both of these ladies decided self care was paramount
Yeah.
before anything else.
Yeah.
Wow.
And today, and their husbands and their children did not accept it,
Mm,
and they ended up divorcing, and their entire lives changed. Their jobs changed,
Oh,
where they live changed. I mean, they just came into a whole new self.
mm,
And I can say today they are extremely happy. They're reconciled with their kids. They have some of them have new spouses, but that was magical, if I may steal your word, Keisha, for them. That's a whole self care process, and really owning it and protecting it
mm.
was
Yes.
paramount in their lives. So in some cases, it won't be accepted.
and that
Yeah, I
occurred.
like that. That's a fair thing to talk about. I think that it's a to your point, I think it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. So, like in a marriage, for example, I can have
Absolutely.
self-care. Your husband has self-care as well. Like you have to respect that. Like, hey, you
Yes,
need to do what you need to do. I need to do what I need to do. Like, it has to be respected and prioritized for everyone. Like, hey, and then I have to support. When he wants to do something for self-care, absolutely go and do it. Like, you want to go to concert, like you want to go, like you got to do that stuff. Like it's
yeah,
absolutely imperative that there's mutual support. So I'm glad you said that because I didn't say that. It's very
yeah,
important that there's mutual support of that. Absolutely.
And as we talk about corporate IQ, I mean, then you bring all of this and you show up in your corporate environment, and it's contagious, and people
true.
start to want some of what you've got, and it's a beautiful opportunity to build community, and for me to just you know to be a way shower of a better way that we can be a more gentler way, that
Mm,
is not so linear.
Yeah, it may
wow.
even
How
help
do you?
with with your stress levels as well, right?
I just want to know. I just want to push to know a little bit more about, selfishly, push to learn a little bit more about how you found all of the kind of internal and external um, regimen pieces that you have. Like how did you push to find out what all of those things are? What do you need? How
I
did
really
you how did you come to know that?
I feel like it was a learning journey, and I feel like it was activated. The reality is like everything from your entire life, like puts you in a place and in a time and in a moment. Um, but I clearly didn't just look tired. I clearly was tired. I clearly was and had been pouring out of a emptiness for quite a long time.
Hmm.
So it was initially just the exposure of and having those moments throughout the year where I could step away and think about me, that I learned served me, and where I could see the benefits of that. I mean, if I go outside, if I'm getting that right amount of sun every day, I'm going to sleep like a baby. People and things are brought into our lives. I've got just amazing friends that center self care, and they're not all aligned in the same practices, right? So people would
Right.
say, "Oh, someone's coming to speak," or "I have an author," or "I have a friend," or "We used to do things at the house," or "Let's learn about tapping and how to redirect," and let's stretch and even humming. I think
Oh,
about the beautiful things our ancestors knew to do. The
Sure.
rocking, the humming, that literally settles the heart and connect the breathe, just the things that my kids laugh at me with part of talking to my plants is part of my self-care, and theirs too. And my kids are like, I can't believe you talk to them every day. I'm like, are you kidding me? I bless my water. I don't just bless my food. I bless my water. My body is 70% water. It's just really, to me,
Wow.
a commitment to being present, not perfect. And no, you don't have to do everything all day, but to just stay so aware and so alert and so
mm.
connected.
Oof.
You know what? I'm gonna say that again. The present, being present. So back to modeling. One of the things that me and my husband try to teach our daughter, so she's in middle school, is the idea of being present. You've said it twice now. It's very important. So from a modeling standpoint, we're trying to teach her this and literally telling her that you have to be present. And I don't know if everyone really understands what folks mean when you say be present. You need to, yeah, be present in a moment. Understand where you are, what you're doing. Look around, pay attention, absorb things, take it in, um, understand truly what's around you, the beauty of it. And so these are the things that we're trying to instill in her. Just that concept right there. You need to be present. It helps you with so many things because you miss things when you're not present, right? You were there, but you weren't present.
Right.
Your body
Mhm.
was like there as an empty vessel, and you weren't present in the mind where you were. So then you don't recall. So when I ask her things about, hey, what was your experience in that moment? She doesn't have much to say because you weren't present. You were somewhere else. Your mind was on to the next thing and the next thing. So back to that corporate tie-in, you're always thinking about the next meeting and the next thing and the next task and the next goal without being just present in the moment and enjoying where you are is one
And
step forward, right?
correct. And presence is I think we tend to think in a physical way, but we are also present. Or how present are you being on a subconscious and conscious level? You know, I
Mhm.
can walk in a room and look around and speak, but have I really like stepped into the room? Have I really observed someone might not look happy or someone might not sound like themselves? Do I notice that, the new mom is like looking crazy? She's just returned from maternity leave and she might need a hug, like being present. And you
Yeah.
have to set the intention to want to be present and to be aware and to say,
Sure.
I want to connect enough to see what's going on, not just outside and around, but what's going on with you, which is why and oftentimes when people talk about self-care, we start with breath work because it does connect the mind and the body. It does make us be still. And it is in that stillness that so much can be revealed. And it doesn't have to be any amount of timed amount. It's just that centering, that center,
Mhm.
that
I
breath.
want to chime in here again because this is one of my challenges. In corporate America, what you two are referring to in corporate, they say things like being observant,
Mhm.
attention to detail,
Mm.
active listening, right? All of those things you can go to your local L&D department and they will give you training in these areas. But one of the things I just want to say about that is one of the reasons this is a challenge for me is because of the work I do. As a recruiter, and I know Lachez knows this, we take 3 seconds to look at a resume. That's on average. I mean, it's stated in from ERE.net.
It
It's been
is.
stated that a recruiter takes 3 seconds to look at a resume. On average, when we put out a job posting, you're looking at 50 to 100 applicants per job. And from where Lashez and I used to work together, we each carried a load from 80 to 100 requisitions.
Wow.
So just imagine how many we had to look at. So I always like to say to candidates that I talk to, recruiters are professional skimmers. That's what they are.
Right, right.
There's no time to pay attention to the details. We know exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for red flags. We can figure that out in 3 seconds. So if this is what you do for all those listeners out there on a day-to-day basis, you have a job where it's about speed, right? In some cases, it's about accuracy, but in some cases, it's about speed. You really need to listen to what we're talking about right now, because we need it, because it doesn't just happen at work. That practice carries over into your home,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, and with your friends,
Yeah.
and right, and before you know it, you're giving everybody 3 seconds and moving on to.
It's
I
true.
like this. I
And
like this.
there's some things that are going to be what they're going to be, right?
Yes.
Like, so where do you create the opportunity to be present throughout your day? If it's not going to be while you're reviewing the resumes, let it be somewhere else. I'll never forget, over a decade ago, I had 3 mentees in Harlem at the same time. And I went to visit, and everybody was out and about. And again, we were in Harlem, and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, this is Summer Fridays. And I said, oh my goodness, they got off. All the offices closed at noon during the summer. This is New York, and this was over a decade ago. And I thought, if New York can do this,
Right.
what? Like, I recently, and I just got to share, what I am most proud about is that, and I'm by no means a pioneer of this work, but that we are getting to places now. And I know it's not all corporations, and I know sometimes it's often small firms where people aren't taking meetings on a Monday or a Friday. My former employee, our offices were closed on Friday for rest and restoration.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
so now we're starting to see the level of compassion that is being carried from individual into communities, into work environments. And I think that's what makes me most happy. The wellness, mindfulness. I mean, you talked about a lot of key words, but there are also some other beautiful buzzwords where people are approaching. A lot of what I've done over my professional career has always required some degree of, data. It's been data driven, right? And reality now is we get to step back, and it's acceptable to tell the story, in different ways, where it's not so and so I think it's just a beautiful attribute of where we're going collectively, where we can continue to go, how we can build, how we can be better, not just for other people and other businesses, but for ourselves, and watch that collectively transform,
I love that. I think even on the corporate side, I think I want to say this to the listeners too. Some of those corporate benefits, I would say, to your point, the wellness programs, some of these things that businesses are offering, sometimes we don't, once again, prioritize these things. They're offering these services. So prioritize really using those services. They might have nutritional services that you can take advantage of. They might have on-site gyms, therapy, wellness, all of those things. Like, these companies are offering these services. It's like you just have to take the time and prioritize yourself to take advantage of those things, or else it's just like it's just promotion for them, and they don't have to really pay for it. You know what I mean? So use the services.
That's right.
Use the services. Yeah. Well, I thank you so much. I think that our listeners have a lot to really glean here, and they can start
Oh yeah.
to build their own regimen with just some of the things that you do for yourself. And I think most importantly, understand the priority with self care and how it's so important to just get through each and every day. So I thank you so much for all of
Mhm.
your guidance to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. I have just enjoyed this so much, but this is so normal. Whenever you are in Keisha's presence, you're going to walk away like feeling like you're floating, you're elevated in some way, some capacity. So I appreciate you so much for doing this and taking up the time to share. And so for our listeners, remember to stay tuned for more episodes. And before I go any further, Keisha, is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience in terms of how to contact you regarding self-care, or are
Yeah.
you open to doing
I,
conversations?
I'm excited to have these conversations. I don't know what I should provide. I
Are
guess
you on the IG?
yes, and on Facebook and LinkedIn. And
Okay.
can I attach that information so we can put it in the in
Oh
conclusion?
yeah,
But
yeah. We'll
I'm Kysha Cameron, and you'll see my name there.
yes,
But I am Kysha Cameron on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Instagram. And
yes.
I am excited to say that this has been such an amazing journey for me that I have recently become certified as a facilitator, but also of a personal excellence um, program. And so I'm finishing up that, and so more to come.
Oh,
Awesome.
congratulations.
To be in service.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, awesome. And so, audience, we're interested in hearing from you. Send us more topics, your suggestions. You can reach us on info@yourcorporateiq.com. We'd also like to engage with you. We are also on Instagram and LinkedIn, and we would love to build an online community with you as well. So until next time, stay tuned.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yes.
High, low, close or open toe. You be looking good when you rock 'em, so put your heels on, girl. Them heels on, lady. Hit your ground hard, you drive me crazy. Palms get sweaty, I'm imagining things. When I see what reality brings, I get choked from your vision uncomparable. So dumb, man, I could write a parable. Killing when I go back to my rap hole living. Michelangelo, you on the ceiling.